Hey guys, today's lost sector is K1 Communion on the Moon. There's going to be 2 barriers and 2 overloads. Looking at a few of the perks, there's going to be solar threat, so we're going to take 25% increased damage from solar. There's going to be Strand Surge, Arc Surge, and Overcharge linear. Starting out with our Hunter build today, we're going to be using Arc Hunter with Assassin's Cowl. For the subclass, we're going to be using Gambler's Dodge, so when we dodge near enemies, it will fully recharge your melee ability. With Combination Blow, so when we get melee kills, it will stack our melee damage up to 3 times. With Skip Grenades, but you can use whatever grenade you like. For the aspects, we're going to be using Flow State, so when we defeat a jolted target, it makes us amplified. And Lethal Current, so after our dodge, our next melee will jolt targets, and it will also allow us to stun Unstoppables that are jolted when we punch them. For the first fragment, we're going to be using Spark of Resistance, so when we're surrounded, we gain increased damage resistance. Spark of Feedback, so when we take melee damage, it will increase our outgoing melee damage. Spark of Ion, so defeating a jolted target creates an Ionic Trace. And Spark of Shock, your arc grenades jolt targets. For our weapons, we're going to be using an auto rifle for the barriers, Salvender Salvo as our general ad clearing weapon. It also has Demolitionist on it, so we can get our grenades back quicker, and Leviathan's Breath for boss damage as well as champion damage. On the artifact, the important mods are Anti-Barrier Auto Rifle and Elemental Orbs Arc, although those aren't too important for your gameplay. On the helmet, we're going to have a hands-on mod, so when we get a melee kill, it will give us super energy with an Arc Siphon mod, so that when we get kills with the salvo, we will be generating orbs. On the gloves, we're going to have 2 heavy-handed mods so we can make bigger orbs when we get melee kills. On the chestplate, we're going to have 2 arc resistance mods, as most of the damage in this lost sector is arc, and then 1 solar resistance mod, since the Marauders and the Overloads shoot solar damage. On the boots, we're going to have an arc weapon surge for Salvender Salvo, with the recuperation and better already, since the melee portion of the build makes that just a little bit safer. On the cloak, we're going to have a powerful attraction mod, so that when we dodge, we pick up all the orbs in the area. For anybody wondering about the appearance, this is it. Alright, moving on to the lost sector. There's going to be 1 barrier in this first room. Once we kill all the adds in the room, the barrier will spawn. In this second room, we need to clear all the adds, or at least most of them, and then the next barrier will spawn. Once we kill all the adds in the room though, then the door will open. There is an overload coming up, so make sure you have a means to stun it. Now that we've killed that overload, there will be another overload in this next room when you go through the doorway. Make sure you have a grenade or a dodge with lethal current ready for him too. Once the overload is defeated, we just need to kill as many things in the room as possible until the shank spawns. Once we defeat the shank, the boss will spawn. For the boss, we're just going to try to do as much damage as possible before he can get out the doorway. We can usually get him down at least a third of his HP before we need to run. There is a barrier during this boss fight, but as long as you don't spawn the barrier in, we don't need to kill him. Once we kill the boss, that's all there is to it. Happy farming today. Let's take a look at our Titan build. We're going to be using Arc Titan with Heart of Inmost Light. Looking at the subclass, we're going to be using Thruster with Seismic Strike and Storm Grenades, but you can also use Pulse Grenades. For the first aspect, we're going to be using Touch of Thunder. This will make our Pulse Grenades create Ionic Traces, and it'll make our Storm Grenades create Roaming Thunderclouds. The second aspect is going to be Knockout, so when we get a melee kill, it will heal us. For the fragments, we're going to be using Spark of Resistance, so we gain increased resistance while surrounded. Spark of Shock, so our Arc Grenades show targets. Spark of Magnitude, so our Pulse Grenades and Storm Grenades last longer. And Spark of Feedback, so when we take melee damage, we will deal increased melee damage. For the weapons, we're going to be using an Auto Rifle for the barriers, Salvager Salvo to get many of the ad kills, and to give us our grenades back quicker because of Demolitionist, and Leviathan's Breath for champion damage as well as boss damage. For the artifact, the important ones are Anti-Barrier Auto Rifle, as well as Elemental Orbs. Elemental Orbs Arc, although it won't make a very big impact on your gameplay. On the helmet, we're going to be using an Ashes Assets so that we get increased super energy from grenade kills, an Arc Siphon mod so we get orbs when we get kills with Salvager Salvo. On the gloves, we're going to have Impact Induction, causing melee damage reduces our grenade cooldown, as well as Momentum Transfer, causing damage with your grenade reduces your melee cooldown, and Boltering Destination grants class ability when you cause damage with a grenade. On the chest plate, we're going to have 2 arc resistances as well as a solar resistance. Many of the enemies in here will shoot arc damage, so we'll have 2, but the overloads as well as a couple marauders will shoot solar damage. On the boots, we're going to have an innervation, so we get a little bit of grenade energy back when we pick up an orb, as well as recuperation, so we get a little bit of HP when we pick up an orb. On the mark, we're going to have a distribution and a reaper, so when we use our thruster and get a kill with our weapon, it will make an orb for us. This is the appearance if anyone is interested. Taking a look at our Titan run, in this first room there will be a barrier champion. Once we kill all the enemies in here, the barrier will spawn. We'll need to kill everything in the room for the door to go away so we can progress. In this room, there will be another barrier champion. We'll need to kill most of the enemies in this room to spawn the barrier, but we will need to kill everything in this room for the doorway to open. In this tunnel coming up, there will be an overload, so make sure you have something that jolts ready, like your grenade. Now that we've killed this champion, there will be one more overload coming up through the next doorway. Make sure you can get another grenade back by the time that guy comes around. If you have the arc orbs, you could pick up one of the orbs and throw it at the champion as well, because it does apply a jolt effect. Once this champion dies, we just need to start killing adds in this room until the shank spawns. Defeating that shank will spawn the boss. Now that we've killed that shank, the boss is spawning. We're going to try to stand here by this doorway and deal as much damage to him as we can on the way out. There is usually a barrier that spawns during this boss fight, but as long as you don't spawn him in, you don't need to kill him. He spawns by killing vandals, so as long as you're not killing any of the vandals, you should be fine. Once the boss is dead, you're all good to loot the chest. Happy farming today. For the Warlock build, we're going to be using Arc with Crown of Tempest. For the subclass, we're going to be using Healing Rift with Ball, Lightning, and Storm Grenades. The aspect is going to be Electrostatic Mine. Defeating targets with Arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets creates an Ionic Trace. With Arc Soul, so when we pop a Rift, we get a little bit of extra DPS. For fragments, we're going to be using Spark of Beacons. While you're amplified, your Arc Special Weapon Final Blows create a blinding explosion. Spark of Shock, your Arc Grenades jolt targets. Spark of Discharge, Arc Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create an Ionic Trace. And Spark of Feedback, when we take melee damage, our melee will deal more damage. For the weapons, we're going to be using an auto rifle for the barriers, Salvager's Salvo, because it has Demolitionist on it and is great at ad clearing, and Leviathan's Breath for boss damage, as well as champion damage. On the artifact, the important mods are Anti-Barrier Auto Rifle, the Arc Siphon mod, as well as Elemental Orbs Arc, though if you don't have Elemental Orbs Arc, it's not going to make a big difference in the gameplay. Moving on to the mods, we are going to have Ashes the Assets on the helmet, so when we get grenade kills, it will give us back super energy, as well as an Arc Siphon mod. So when we get a kill with our Salvager Salvo, it will make us orbs. On the gloves, we have Firepower, so when we get a grenade kill, we'll make an orb, as well as Grenade Kickstart, so that we can get a little bit of our grenade energy back when we throw our grenade. On the chest plate, I'm going to have 2 arc resistance mods, since there's lots of arc in the Lost Sector, as well as 1 solar resistance, because the Overload champions, as well as a few of the Marauders, shoot solar weapons. On the boots, we're going to have a recuperation, so we heal when we pick up an orb, as well as orbs of restoration, so in our lowest energy ability will get a little bit of its cooldown reduced when we pick up an orb, as well as an arc weapon surge. On the bond, we're going to have powerful attraction, so we pick up all the orbs in the area when we use a rift, as well as Reaper. So when we use our rift, our next weapon kill will make us an Orb of Power. This is the appearance for anyone that wants to see it. Starting off the Lost Sector run on Warlock, we're going to be killing a barrier champion in here. The champion will spawn when we kill most of the enemies in the room. Once we kill the champion, the doorway to the next room will open. There's another barrier champion in this room. Its spawn condition is when you kill most of the enemies in this room, though we will need to kill everything in order to get the doorway to open, so don't hesitate to kill anything that you see in this room. Once we've killed everything in this room, this doorway will open. There will be an overload down this hallway. Have a jolt grenade ready for them. Once we kill that champion and we progress a little bit further into the last sector, about 2 doors down, we're going to have another overload. If you manage to get one of the arc orbs, you can throw it at the overload. It does apply a jolt effect, so it will stun overloads. Once we kill the overload, our next goal is to kill almost everything in this room. There will be a shank that spawns in, and that is what spawns the boss. Once we kill the shank, the boss will spawn. We're going to go stand right next to his doorway to try to get as much damage on him as possible. If you're able to jolt him before you start shooting at him, that's great. If not, it's not necessary. Try to get about 1/3 to half of his health while he's in his doorway, and then leave him alone. The boss gets to about 1/3 HP, pop your super. It should kill him or get you at least very close to killing him. After that, you can loot the chest. Happy farming today.